Now, motherfucking finally live after all that shit. Woohoo!
Yo.
Yeah.
Cheers for coming on, boys. For anyone listening, because I have to add this in now because obviously I have a lot of followers for the audio side of things. This video is also on YouTube. So yeah, with video and audio on YouTube. Obviously, I just said that. Joined by obviously Nathan and Sean, aka Porterballs, and Nathan, aka Drawn from the Mind. Cheers for coming on today, guys.
No
It's
worries.
a question, actually. You the guy that does all the artist work?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice. It's good stuff.
Cheers,
You
man.
did it for
Cheers.
his channel.
So
I like to draw silly cartoons.
Does it save
Yeah.
you time?
Or using the banana image.
Yeah. You know all about that. But yeah, no, cheers honestly for coming on and chatting, because obviously that was we were meant to go live at 11 and we haven't, and obviously we're going to talk conspiracies and gaming, and we had a little bit of chat off stream. Conspiracy wise, obviously we can entertain anything, it'll be a laugh, such as the earth being flat, quotation marks there, because I don't think any of us genuinely believe it or even really want to entertain the idea, because it's quite funny. However, in my Instagram post there was some guy who was like, these are the tests I've done.
Oh, hang on. Was that the guy talking about gravity and stuff? Wow, what was his name? I can't remember what his name was.
Let's give him a shout out. Fuck it, be funny.
Yeah, why not?
So he
Were
obviously
you talking about the one that said gravity, the theory of gravity is wrong, and it was to do with buoyancy?
Yeah. He basically is saying that gravity is the path of, it should be called the path of least resistance or something like that.
But isn't that
really,
the definition of gravity?
Well, this is the thing. Gravity is a made-up word. So, like, all he's basically saying is that made-up word isn't the made-up word he wants to use. Well, that doesn't mean anything to do with the theory of it or the the facts behind it. It's just quibbling about what it's called.
I mean, that's always my issue with the whole gravity argument is, oh yeah, like gravity, what, something that can't be seen and blah blah blah. And I'm like, well, you can see it.
That's
when
a good
people
impression
kind of
of someone that believes that.
You can see it when people jump out of buildings, you know, or just if you jump in the air and fall on the floor, like. And I think I heard something quite stupid, which is apparently the Earth's moving at moving up at a certain speed. So when we jump, it's actually the Earth moving to us, not us moving to the Earth.
So yeah, that's the only other way that you can explain it, because basically it's either the Earth is spinning at a certain speed, and then all the maths that comes along with that, or the other way to explain it is that we are constantly rising. So people, I think,
like an erection.
Yes. Well, obviously we have a peak, whereas I don't think they're trying to say that the Earth doesn't. It just keeps going. It's the circle, the infinite circle of erection, basically. I don't know. That's what the theory's called, but it should be now. It is now. That's what it's called. It's called the infinite circle of erection.
So it's basically an analogy for Pornhub.
That's exactly what
I knew we'd link Pornhub to Flat Earth in this podcast.
Who do you think's funding it? You know?
Yeah.
Well, Pornhub.
Pornhub.
Disclaimer.
Exactly.
Disclaimer.
The only thing they don't look like that's flat is chests. But, right, look. The thing is, yeah. Jay brought this up the other day, and I looked into it a bit. The whole discussion of if the Earth's spinning, why don't we feel it? You know, like it spins at 1,000 miles per hour, right?
Yep.
So some people, obviously, logically, would think you'd feel it, but I mean, it turns out it's like anything else. You know, like if you go on a train, a plane, a car, and it has a consistent speed. You're going with the motion. You only feel effects if it slows down or speeds up.
Yeah.
Whereas the Earth is constantly spinning at the same speed because, well, there's nothing stopping it. It's the fucking Earth. Like, you're not going to feel any motion. And when people say, "Oh, the Earth isn't spinning; it's the sun going around the Earth," it's like, bruh.
That's another one. They use that a lot for the seasons. So they say if the Earth's flat and it's moving up constantly, that sorts the gravity out. But then seasons, what about seasons then? So they say that the sun moves around in a certain way, and that causes the seasons.
Right, but if the Earth was flat, then wouldn't the sun cover the entire Earth at the same time?
No, because of the firmament, which is the
The
What the
dome.
film?
it's like if we were in a snow globe, it would be the glass. I think they call it the firmament. I think that's what it's called.
Right.
And that basically protects us from the sun and other things, and it makes things look in a certain way, in a certain perspective.
Yeah.
And because none of that's provable at all, they can just extrapolate from that. They can just say the word firmament and then say anything after that. So any point that you have, they can just go firmament.
Yeah.
I've also heard. Oh, sorry, Joe.
No, I was just cracking up because I farted and I don't know whether my mic picked it up, but I think it did. So someone's going to be listening and just hear when you two are talking.
Just say.
Is that like permission to fart on your stream then?
Yeah, feel
Yeah.
free, mate. Well, your ones. Well, I'll have to take my headset off when you let one.
Some
rip,
quality
mate.
content coming in, yeah. Some brown noise.
So yeah, with the flat Earth thing, obviously, there is a lot of what I'd like to call is like make believe, in the sense of taking something that happens and then explaining it in a different way and going, well, that must be how it is then. And it's kind of like, we could make up, us three now, we could theorise how the sun works and say the Earth's a fucking square and the sun works this way, and then probably put it out there and people would be like, yeah, actually, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, we're on a square. Yeah, that's how waterfalls are made, because, like, you know, they fall off the edge of the square. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, anything is...
It's
like,
weird.
Sean said to me a few times, it's like, you're telling me everything, but you're showing me nothing, and it's like, you're showing me, like, little computerized theories about how the sun moves. Like, why don't some twat go up high enough to the top of the firmament where the sun's moving, because apparently it's under the firmament, I believe, and record the sun moving in its way it's meant to move, like from an above way, and I'll be like, yeah, that looks weird. Like, you've gone higher than the sun, okay, but instead
Well,
they can't.
The sun rises in the east, sets in the west. There's like logic to it. It's nature. Like, you know, we always talk about nature, and when it comes to something like space, it seems to be like, oh, anything goes, but it's still part of nature, still a natural process. And if you think about the way the Earth is spinning, like, we get seasons because it doesn't spin completely straight. It's like a circular motion. So we get the seasons, we get closer to the equator, whatever. And they seem to denounce that because apparently the sun's actually, like, and don't quote me on this, it's just what I've heard, like 30 miles away. And it's like tiny or something. And it's like a flashlight. And it goes in certain places at certain times. And it's just like, even if the sun was traveling around the Earth, it would take a fucking long time if it was that far away. Because it's actually like, how many millions of miles away? Like 30?
If you
30
were
million miles away. Yeah.
if you were the size of, if you were a nit in your own hair, do you think that you'd know that the thing you're on wanks? That's the way I'd put it. So we're so tiny compared to the Earth, right?
Yeah.
How you can't ask one person to comprehend the size of it. Never mind the universe. Let's just stick with the Earth.
I've had that problem all my life.
but so it would be the same if you had some like even an ant in a field. Like, it's not going to know the edges of the field. It's not going to be able to. Even if it was intelligent, it's just the sheer size of it. It just becomes. So what we have processes, maths, sciences that can explain certain things, and as soon as you take one of them out, then you've actually got a problem, because they trickle down into everything else, like you were saying with the seasons without gravity, if you take gravity out of the equation and say that isn't real, then that affects about 100 other different things in science, which then and they're provable. So if you can prove that they're right, then surely the gravity part of it must be something there. So then you have to explore that, and then you do come to the conclusion that yes, we have something called gravity, and it's called gravity. If you want to call it something else, that's fine, but you can't change the tenets of it just to suit an idea that you may have. Or you can do that because apparently that's a valid way to to be. But
Yeah.
I would.
Yeah. I mean, look, phone, it drops. Whatever it's called, it is what it is.
It dropped.
You know,
Yeah,
you can call it
exactly.
gravity, you can call it gravy, you can call it whatever you want, but it's there. So when what is it?
The infinite circle of erection. That's what I call
Exactly
it.
that.
Yep.
It's a very circular argument as well because it never ends. You know.
I mean, the other issue I have as well is when we talk about other conspiracies like the moon landing or 9/11 or JFK or whatever. Usually everyone's kind of touching on the same sort of points, and then it goes a little bit skew-if, but it's usually we're all around the same type of science and based physics and whatever. Whereas when you talk about the Earth being flat, there's so much like chaos in that community. It's like, no, the Earth's 30 miles away. No, the Earth's 300 miles away. No, we're in a dome. No, we're not in a dome. Water, there's an ice wall. There's not an ice wall. The stars move. They don't move. Whatever.
There's no consensus, really, is there?
Do you get what I mean? So it's like
it's at the point where I'm not sure if people are trolling now or not. Whether it's actually the people that like YouTube comments, I'm not sure if they really believe it or they're just saying it for a laugh. That's how
100%.
ridiculous.
I think about 90% of them don't believe it. They're part of something. That's what you want to be. You want to be part of something. So whether you're intelligent enough to get an engineering degree or not, that doesn't mean that you don't want to be part of something. So you could get a degree in engineering, learn all those things that you need to learn, then pick up something that you want to be part of, and then forever be like, well, I have got a degree in engineering, so what I'm saying, it does hold a little bit of weight, but technically it doesn't if it's wrong. And these things are really provable. Like there's for every YouTube video that there is of someone saying a certain theory, you've got 10 of people that are disproving the theory and going, well, no, actually it's this way. So if you want to hang on to it, that's because you really want to believe it. It's not necessarily because it's so true that everyone should know that it's true. It's more to do with the individual person really wanting to be part of that and believe in it, and
just like religion.
Yeah. But it might not be the case with every conspiracy, because I'm sure there's conspiracies that you both believe that
as we're
you
about
don't
to
think you're
find out.
delusional on.
Well, look, just
we'll
to quote what Jay said about JFK.
Yeah.
Like, I don't really need any more proof because have you seen the Zapruder film?
No.
Of the assassination where he's in his motorcade and he comes down.
Oh, the video of it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, if you watch it, and this is the simplest thing for me, you watch it, you see his head get blown off, and it's clearly not from the direction that Lee Harvey Oswald was in. It was from, I assume, he snaps back like that. I assume it hit him in the side, and it knocked him that way. So that means there was another shooter. So that means it's a conspiracy to me.
Right.
Know?
Back and to the left.
Yeah, exactly. There's video evidence. It's clear that he was shot from more than one direction. And it wasn't just Lee Harvey Oswald in the book depository just chilling out and, being the perfect marksman.
The thing is with anything, there is a small percentage that something weird might happen, something radical might happen. So would you say 100% that if he was shot like that, he wouldn't have snapped in that way? Or would you think that it just seems likely that he wouldn't have snapped in that way?
No, I wouldn't say 100% because you'd have to go into the science and the physics of bullets and
but even then, that's what I'm saying. Even then, like there's hunters that I've watched videos of hunters talk about it, because obviously they shoot animals all the time. They know ballistics. I think there's always like a small percentage where it's like, well, this is my theory, but there is a chance that it did go the other way. But I've never known of, if you maybe know of some proof that there was other shooters other than just assuming that there were because of the way it looked. Like, is there any other proof, any extra bullets, extra?
I was gonna say, obviously, like gunshot sounds were heard, like coming from the grassy knoll or whatever, apparently, and as well as like the movement of the head and shit. What else was there?
So the movement of the head. Let's say that could have been correct.
Yeah.
Because under a radical circumstance, it could be correct.
Okay,
then
so
hearing the gunshots, that's people talking about it after the fact.
Yeah.
And during something like that, there is always an amount of people remembering it wrong or being told that, oh, did I hear a gunshot? And then they will carry that on, and then it suddenly they believe it. Oh, I definitely heard extra gunshots. So there is a small chance that could happen as well.
My issue with it is like...
No, I do see what you're saying.
My issue with it is like, you shoot someone in the president and then you go and chill in the fucking cinema and get arrested for it.
Well, yeah.
Do you get what I'm saying? Like, so that point, like, for me...
That's dodgy. That's certainly dodgy, but I don't think that would not warrant, like, thinking anything other than that person's a bit weird.
Yeah,
for me.
Well,
as well as
the reason why... I don't know if you remember, the reason why he got arrested at the cinema is because after he apparently shot the president, he went to near where his house was, and there was a police officer on the street, and the police officer approached him, and he shot the police officer dead, and then went into the cinema.
Then went to the cinema, right?
Yeah.
Why?
Well,
why would you do that shit? You know what I mean?
Apparently, there is some evidence that he was being squeezed by, like he owed some money to some big people, some mafia, some sort of things going on with the mafia and they wanted him to do it.
Well, I mean, he was shot by Jack Ruby, who was I think he was a Jewish loan shark.
So there is a few little things there that point towards certain things, but for me, it's like not on the dot. It's not on the nose. Do you know what I mean? So that's why I don't, specifically with that one, I've never went like really deep on it, because it just seems like it's a lot of stuff where you go, it could be that, but it also could be this.
Yeah.
I'm going to believe this because of whatever bias you have.
I mean,
bias.
There's a lot of things I couldn't even remember to discuss. But I mean, a lot of the things on the day, like how some of these security guards were pulled off at the airport. There's even video footage of it. They were told to stand down. No one knows why. I mean, it's the president. You don't pull off security guards
exactly.
in an open motorcade going down the street. You know, would that happen with the Queen? You know, she just walks down the street. They're like, you know. And what else was it?
I mean, I think the government had like and there's certain members of the government that had a vested interest in him being popped off. Do you know what I mean? If you look at Bush Senior or whatever, like his play in certain elements of it, because he was director of the CIA, I think, at the time, or whatever, like somewhere. And I just think, you know, and then there's that photo in there, that controversial photo of that geezer like having a little wink at the other geezer, like, that's right, boy, you and me tonight in the showers. The president's dead.
I'd have to go with what Nathan's saying on that, though, because that's all taken out of context. He could have been winking at him for anything.
But see, again, they're taking the security detail off. That is dodgy, isn't it? It's dodgy.
Yeah.
But is that could that have happened? Could that be something completely different? Could that be dodgy for a different reason? There could be something else completely dodgy that's running parallel to this shooting. And obviously, we're never going to find that out. This is one of my main issues with older conspiracies, is that you're going to get a lot of it's second-hand information, third-hand information, fourth-hand information, or things that you can't. There's no way that you can be able to check up on that now and find that out now, because you can't speak to the people. We've all had jobs where I'm willing to stake 100% that where we've made mistakes in our job, just little ones, and you go, oh shit, I just did this, or I did that. What if someone made a mistake by pulling them off that day?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
their little shitty mistake, and then now it's part of a conspiracy theory, and they're like, "Oh shit, I'm not," and they won't admit it. Would they admit it? No, you wouldn't, because you'd be like, "Oh shit, it actually
True.
turned out to
I
be
mean,
something."
I think it's just one of those things the way you don't expect it to happen. Do you know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
just
it's like a
like,
parallel thing.
yeah, it's
The
kind of
thing
like,
is,
go on.
the argument is it's highly convenient JFK was killed at the time with the Vietnam War and him wanting to pull out the troops. And as soon as he was killed, obviously the new president, I can't remember who it was, Lyndon Johnson maybe, I don't know, overthrew the Vietnam War Act, and they carried on. There was vested interest in seeing Kennedy leave. So it's convenient, at least.
Oh yeah, 100%. The thing is it's definitely dodgy, and I would never say it wasn't. It's just I always just like err on the side of caution with stuff like this, because with certain things, like, you know how we were going to say we were going to talk about Brexit first
Yeah.
before this started. So I've had discussions with people on Brexit before, and again, I like to play devil's advocate. I like to like go through different avenues and talk about things in different ways. And but if you get too staunch on something and you're like your hard line, sometimes it it raises the level of the conversation to an argument.
Yeah, yeah, I
So,
get
and
you.
I always like try and want to like slip around that
I
because
guess
I
it's
just think
like,
it's a waste of your time, really.
yeah, it's a bit of diplomacy in the discussion. You know, you don't want to. I don't know. There are some things I could talk about where I definitely have made my mind up.
Yeah.
I wouldn't argue with someone about their opinion, but their opinion wouldn't change my opinion.
Well, but yeah, well, this is the things. Certain things you can have an opinion on, and that's fine. But with stuff like facts, like with the flat Earth thing, it's like you can't have an opinion on a fact
Yeah,
if you're
it's so
changing it to not be a fact.
ludicrous. It's ludicrous. That's why. I mean, I'm open minded. Don't get me wrong, but I see absolutely no proof. I see just it reminds me of the olden days where people had these hysterical superstitions,
Yeah.
you know, and it's like flat Earth. It's just why is it a conspiracy?
I think a lot of it has to do with age as well, like the age of people and how fast information and technology improves.
Yeah,
People now can access way more information way younger, and when they get to a certain age, they feel like because they've got access to all this information that they know a lot more than they did. But I don't think our capacity to have information has gotten any bigger.
right.
So we're talking about things that are 200 years old that we weren't alive for in history class or whatever it is. And then, but we can research it. Back then, you wouldn't be able to research it, so you just think what you feel at the time. Oh, I feel like the Earth is flat, so that would become your thing. I don't feel it moving, so it's obviously not spinning. That would become your thing.
Yeah.
Now, I think with the way that technology is going and we're getting information so fast, I think it's swinging back the other way. So people are going, "Oh, this is what I feel. I can't listen to all. It's too much information. I don't want to have to learn physics or biology or anything to get my information. I want to just feel it and then go, that is my opinion on it. That's the thing." So I think a lot of it with the flat earthers, at least half of it, is that I don't feel like it's correct. I don't feel like the earth is a globe because of
Yeah,
something
everyone's got
something
their
in the way
own.
you feel it.
Yeah, everyone's got their own perspective of truth, and if you truly believe something, then no one's going to change your mind.
Mm.
And like you're saying about the information nowadays with the internet, I mean, I guess all us three were lucky to grow up before that and grow with it. So you can kind of keep an open mind when it comes to information, whereas the younger generation coming up who've had access to it, I don't know, maybe since they're 5 years old,
Mm.
how hard is it going to be for them to like critically think as they get older, because they've got all this information coming at them all the time, you know?
Exactly, man. Like, I agree,
Mm.
because the social media sites suddenly become your main source of news, and we've already seen in politics that people can be manipulated because, for example, I'll like tweet about Donald Trump or Brexit, and then suddenly my timeline's filled with Brexit articles and Trump favourable articles and everything. So make okay.
But it's like Twitter. Twitter has the power to win elections now. I mean, it's mad.
Exactly.
You know,
It's crazy. It's just one of those things, isn't it?
and yeah. So yeah, I agree with. I'm feeling left out here.
Mine's official, mate. Mine's official.
No, yeah, mine's as scrooby as Pip Hat. So
Make Pip rap again.
But on the sense of conspiracies and believing in things, yeah, obviously, like a conversation I had with Mick West is kind of like YouTube suggestions. You know, like you watch one 9/11 conspiracy, and then suddenly you've got another one suggested to you, and you find yourself going into that rabbit hole, and you're not looking at any of the debunks, so you never hear the counter
especially
argument.
if you believe what's in the previous video,
Yeah, exactly.
because you're in that space, you're like, oh, this is all knowledge, this is all correct, and then you just click on the next one, the next one, the next one. I was going to say, you had him on. He's like an expert debunker. So what, like, did he just laugh at you half the time? Or
Sean's
like,
face
'cause-
there.
you know what I mean?
Well, I'm meant to be having him on again soon, actually, so I don't want to hate on it too much. But my opinion is, like, I entertained the side, like, I sold myself out a little bit, in the sense of I didn't press him enough on certain questions that maybe I should have. And so he didn't change my opinion, and a lot of the things, like the information he presented back, like after I spoke with Sean, who's researched far more hours than me into the 9/11 conspiracy, he was like, mate, like, no, that's not right, this isn't right, like, where the fuck is he getting this information from? And, you know, it's easy for all of us, we can all sit here and say, yeah, blah 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 this, but it's like, where's your source? You know, where's this information coming from?
Yeah.
And I asked him about the pilot thing, where one of the pilots said that one of the people that flew the jumbo jets wasn't even skilled enough to fly a Cessna. Like, I think he couldn't even get it off the ground. They interviewed the guy that was training him. He said that quotation,
Right.
word for word. It's out there. And then I asked
It's
Mick
actually
West,
in the commission report as well. If anyone wants to argue official sources,
yeah.
if you know what I mean.
And then
Right.
Mick West was like, no, they had hundreds of hours of flying, and you know, they were good pilots. And I was like, where did you find this information? He was like, oh, I can't pull it up for you now. And I was kind of just like, you know, that's the only time I
Yeah.
pressed him. But don't get me wrong, like, obviously he's going with the official story because that's kind of all where the money's gone into, and that's what he believes, so that's fair enough to him.
Well, he's obviously a shill. That's what you're saying, isn't it?
Yeah, it's got to be.
Seashill
I'm shilling.
for a shilling.
Arr, give me a shilling.
Well, look, he tried to prove the Pentagon plane could fly into the Pentagon with a flight simulator game. Now, I'm not being funny, but it's not really evidence. It's a controlled environment. I mean, of course, you could do it with a game.
Yeah, I mean, I agree as well, because you haven't got a account for all the shit that's going on the plane.
So
Adrenaline
what would
and
be the
so
correct
forth.
way to do it, though?
Drive a fucking
Do it for
plane.
real.
Yeah.
Yeah, to just, you know, like, but I think, I suppose people have constraints on what they're able to do, and that would, I suppose, that would be the only way that he would be able to do it without I suppose you could do it with like paper flight charts.
I'll
if
tell you
knew
the
enough.
best way to do it would be to, none of us are qualified as pilots, ask the pilots whether the manoeuvre that was made and how far off the ground he was flying when he hit the Pentagon is achievable.
Well, there's an issue as well. What kind of pilot are you asking?
with top class.
So like, you
Top
drive
Gun.
a car. What, any of you drive a car?
He
Yeah.
does.
Okay, so does that mean that you can talk about like crashes in F1
Yeah.
reliably?
No.
No, it doesn't. But if you're a driver, so if someone asked you, you might. It's not necessarily going to be right. So again, you'd have trouble with getting reliable information about it, like
Yeah.
the maneuver or whatever. Also, how much footage was there of the Pentagon plane?
None.
if any?
Yeah.
Well, there was. This is my problem as well. There was 3 images released from the CCTV, which was by a parking lot outside the Pentagon. They didn't actually show the plane.
Yeah.
They just showed a plume of smoke and a bit of silver. Now, obviously, the Pentagon's the most guarded place in the world, pretty much. There's CCTV everywhere, you know. They won't release any footage of the plane. If the plane was there, why won't you release footage of the plane?
As well as there was apparently loads of dead bodies on the lawn and that, and yet the news were there, and there's just
Well,
nothing.
I'm not going to see any of that information because I'm just a member of the public, and they're not going to release it if there's something in there that's dodge. But why wouldn't you release something? Surely there would be something to prove it other than just what they have released.
Yeah,
The issue with that
can
is,
a conspiracy, I say.
It was a crime.
Yeah, go on.
And it went to court. And in court, you need to present evidence. No evidence was ever presented of the footage of the Pentagon plane.
Okay.
On record. They just said, and it was taken as fact. You know.
Right. Okay. So, but that would also depend on what the court case was and what type of court case it would be, because maybe they wouldn't need to prove it. Because it might not be about that, if you get what I mean.
Yeah.
Because you can take court documents from any case when something's been discussed, and it could be discussed within the context of that. But
yeah, once it goes into the public domain.
Yeah, but if the case isn't, if the case wasn't specifically, is there a plane there? Was there a plane there? Then technically, legally, they don't need to show any evidence. They could just say it, and you would just have to take that as fact.
I mean,
unless that was a point of contention within the case. The only reason I know that is because my fiance is a solicitor, and we have little debates about certain things, law based.
My only issue with it all is, like, if it happened, if the plane actually hit the building, can all the conspiracies off, show the fucking footage, let just one image, whatever, like one still image of the fucking plane just about to hit it. Instead, they release an image from the side, from a security camera of a fucking police car going into the car park or whatever. They edit the footage, so they delete some frames, which has been proven. And I'm just like, what's the point? Like, if what you're telling me is true, why fuck around with it? Like, do you get what I mean? Like, if I'm gonna slap someone in the face and someone's recorded it, I'm not gonna edit it.
It could get released at some point, surely.
Well, it's fucking been a long way, innit?
Yeah, but like, just look at there's been a lot of documents that Trump has unclassified that have been classified for ages.
I worry about his wigs.
Yeah. Same place I get mine.
So I suppose we could. You never know. We could find out. We might not find out in our lifetime.
Yeah, but you get what I mean, though. It's like, for me, maybe it's just my personality. I'm not fucking government and FBI agent, so I don't know how it really works. But if I knew there was loads of smoke about people going in saying, no, it's a conspiracy, protests on the streets, I'd just be like, oh, fuck you and your conspiracy. Here's the proof. That's what you wanted. Yeah. That's what you got. Job done. And even now, like, I don't see why they haven't done it, because, like, they could just release some CGI movie footage of it, and just be like, yeah, there it is, and I'll be like, sweet, there's the proof. Like,
you wouldn't, because you'd prove it was CGI. That's what you'd do.
Somehow, probably, yeah, there probably would be a way.
Well, I mean,
we'll go into the towers if you want.
You have to look at everything that happened that day, because it's all in the same time frame. The fourth plane that crashed in Pennsylvania, there was no evidence of a plane. There was just a hole in the ground. There was nothing. And this is video footage. You know, they're obviously helicopter was straight up.
I think I've seen. Yeah, I think I've seen that. It just looks like a ditch.
Yeah. And they're like, the official explanation was the plane hit the ground so hard that it went in the ground and just disintegrated.
Right.
To just nothing, basically. And obviously, that's the only time that's ever happened in the history of plane crashes, ever.
Yeah, like they make that black box to survive any crash, surely.
Yep, and they never presented the black boxes as evidence of the flight paths and what went on. They said they never found them, but yet they found a passport of a terrorist that fell out the tower.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's a weird one, that as well.
You know,
Just
he
happened
just
to find it.
chucked it out as he
Yeah,
before he
destroyed it.
crashed. You know,
Yeah, that doesn't
as you
make
would.
sense at all.
As well as the video footage from the towers going into the the planes going into the towers. Apparently, it was like a nice blue sunny day, and yet if you check like multiple sources of the footage, they're like sky's grey, sky's blue, sky's a bit brown, like, and they're all taken from the same time from different helicopters and different angles, different people on the street and that, and yet the consistency of the colour in the sky is a bit weird.
See, but I'd call bullshit on that as well. I'm the bullshit caller.
Go for it.
It's because different cameras, different makes a camera, different. There's loads of reasons why you get different colors from different video cameras or different sources. People are taking stuff on mobile phones that look like different colors, and obviously there's no way of you being able to. I don't know if you've ever watched a guy on YouTube called Super Saf.
No, never.
He does mobile phone like reviews, and he gets all the phones on one big rig, and then takes the video, and you see all the different angles, and you can see the tonality is different, sometimes even the scale's different on each camera, and they're just mobile phone cameras from different companies, so you can extrapolate that to big film cameras, helicopter cameras that are on helicopters, CCTV, stuff like that. So, I mean, you can't use that, I think, as a reliable
Source
point.
of information, mate. Do you know what?
Yeah.
You just debunked it. I'm now a believer.
Well, by the way, what would you do
I've
right now if I
still got
just,
something to say on that.
ripped my face off and I was Mick West? Just came off.
Nathan, I understand what you're saying because I have watched phone reviews and I've seen comparisons with footage and the disparities between each camera. I think the problem is, like, the footage I've seen, the context of it is, if you look at this footage that Jay mentioned, there's such a difference between each camera in a massive way. So, for instance, there's like home footage of that day. It was the most beautiful blue day, perfect sunny day. And then you got the helicopter cameras. Some of them look like basically New York is covered in a brown smog, and then another camera will be perfectly blue. And this guy managed to get all the footage together, and he proved that each camera was actually at the same angle and same distance, like it was all coming from the same camera, except each news station.
So it's like a filter or something.
Yeah, each news station had like different effects, different like a brown smog, and then sometimes the horizon was in a different place. Sometimes there weren't any buildings in the background. It was really strange.
I think the only way you'd be able to prove that is if you were to get those cameras, find somewhere that's the exact same sort of environment, have those cameras set out, and then have someone fly up. Because also you're going to have things like rubble, even smoke from the planes and stuff like that. You don't know how that's going to affect the clouds in the area either. The change in temperature alone is going to change the way that things move in the air. So like dust particles, smoke, stuff like that. So I think that would be the only way they'd be able to like, if someone showed me the camera angles and said that this was the distance, if I watched that video, for instance, I'd probably believe it a little bit more because they've done the work to show me. But I don't think that would be enough for me to be like, right, well, that's one of the reasons I'm gonna believe that conspiracy of.
Yeah.
Not saying that I don't believe the conspiracy either, because you were saying before that I am a 9/11 believer, but yeah, only in the sense that I believe there was a 9/11.
Oh,
You know.
Yeah, okay, yeah. I mean, there's the problem with that day is, like, you know, there's so much fishy shit. You know, so I watched a little thing that was on Channel 5 about some guys who said the way the towers collapsed so quick was because the aluminium from the planes melted, and when it reacts with water, it causes an explosion. And the size
I've heard that before. I've heard that theory.
The size of the plane going in and the amount of aluminium there was would equate to 50 tons of TNT. So they talk about it chief architects and that say there's no way those towers would have gone down in an hour. Like proper people who have built skyscrapers and that, they know what the fuck they were going on about.
I think that's one of the main points that I can't be skeptical about.
Yeah.
Is the whole the quickness of it, and the whole air fuel steel bar melt scenario that you kind of get.
Yeah.
I'm kind of like, well, I understand that.
I mean,
so that's one of the points that I do sort of
with their
move towards to go, well, yeah, that could be true.
With their theory, obviously, they then approached the government and said, look, we want to like take some extracts to try and prove our theory. And the government were like, nope, this aluminium thing wasn't true. The NIST report's correct. Like, the fire's burnt for this long, burnt the steel, and it collapsed. And then people are like, steel doesn't need, steel needs to be this hot for it to melt. There was enough electronics and paper and stuff like that would have helped the fuel burn up to that amount, which is kind of logical, kind of get it. But it's like you're also in an enclosed building, so not only that, like the fire that's meant to be burning is being starved from oxygen to an extent, because that's why you get all that black smoke, isn't it? Unless I'm completely wrong. I might be completely wrong. I might have said the dumbest shit in my life.
You're right, but you're right. You're right to a certain extent, because the black smoke's got to do with the fire as well. What the fuel is as well.
Yeah.
What's burning?
That makes sense.
Not kerosene, yeah.
So, but that's one of the points that I always try and look into is the whole how quick it went down and stuff, and why, and the reasons why people say it went down so quick. Because I think that's one of the most flimsy points that people have, I think, when it comes to it.
As well as as well as you think about the size of the part that the plane went in above it, and the mass of that's underneath it. Like the mass of that top bit would collapse down, sure, but it ain't taking out all the bottom of that building. Like, do you know what I mean? It's like that's the small chunk, and that's the fucking massive chunk. But like that bit is gonna collapse in, and eventually, like physics is gonna do its part, and the motion's gonna eventually stop. But in this case, it just fluidly goes done. No, like
turns to dust.
Yeah, no fucking slowing down in the movement. You think as that building's
no
coming
resistance.
down, yeah, as it's coming down, it's hitting things that are slowly taking the speed off it. Just like if we lined up 10 cars in a row and I drove a truck into it, by the time, or 50 cars in a row, whatever, I drive that truck into it at a certain speed. By the time it gets to the end car, it's going to be going slower. Like that's common. That's surely common knowledge, right? That's not.
Yeah. But also, you've got to put that theory gravity into the equation as well, and then and also if you explosions that happen above could push things to speed things up. You wouldn't necessarily need that much more force either, because it's the speed you go at, not the force. I can't remember the exact equation, but it's like speed times force squared, or whatever it is. I can't remember what exactly it is, but it just means that you're more likely to get more power behind you with more speed than it is just putting a bit more welly into it. So if you're going to kick down a door, for instance, you want to get more speed. It doesn't matter how much force you put into it standing next to it if you're going to kick it down. If you get some more speed, you hardly need to kick it when you get to it, as long as you're speeding, because apparently that multiplies the force. So if it was going down and it was generating speed as it was going down because of the explosion, because of whatever, I'd be interested to know exactly what sort of things they had in the building to stop like natural disasters like earthquakes and stuff like that.
Well, the architect designed the buildings, and this is an interview with him on record, to withstand a airplane hitting it. The buildings were described as a web, like a netting on a door.
So they would just catch it and then...
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, because the buildings are... This is my issue. The buildings were massive, and they were built with a core and then an outside. They were solidly built. And the problem with the collapses, they collapse in 10 seconds at free fall speed, which means the entire building had no resistance. So the pancake theory, where each floor slammed down on it, would have taken upwards of a minute at least, but the buildings just turned to dust. Nothing survived. It didn't. It wasn't like
So then, if you take that as so that's what happened. We saw that.
yeah.
That's what happened. We've seen it from many angles. So then, where do you go to as a reason for that? Like each
Oh.
of you, do you each of you have a different theory as well?
No, well, I don't think we do. But we're gonna sound. I might have to get my tinfoil hat out and start going on about it. But
Right. Well,
go on,
there's a
Sean.
popular theory that it's thermite, which I don't believe. There's also a theory that some sort of directed energy weapon was used,
Oh, okay.
or a nuke, which I know all these sound extreme, but there's behaviours in the collapse that attribute to these things, especially as there was molten metal 6 months after in the wreckage, which didn't make any sense. But you know,
Yeah. So are you agreeing with that as well, JB?
I'm going with the directed energy weapon if I'm honest.
All right. Okay. So you've skipped the more
The thermite, yeah. I've listened to
the
Richard
thermite.
Gage, and then I actually spoke to Mick West about it, and Mick West actually debunked it quite well, so it made sense. There was like certain
So
particles that.
so he's debunked the thermite, and you've thought, right? So he's debunked that one. I'll go for the next one on.
No, no, no. I was never in the thermite realm, mate. I went balls deep, and maintained
You were
balls
like,
deep.
it's the Death Star. Fuck it. It was the
Yeah.
Death Star. That's it. End on.
Yeah, I must sound like I've got to apologise because my knowledge on all of this stuff has been so shit. I
Well,
must sound like a
listen.
complete idiot.
I don't have a degree in anything. Do you?
I get
Yeah.
the 9th degree a lot from women.
I mean, I think I'm a 4th degree black belt in microwavable meals, but that's about it.
Yeah.
69th
So
degree
I
is
mean,
my favourite.
well, I think we're all layman's in a way, but it's good. It's a good thing to talk about and talk through.
Well, look, I know it sounds absurd to someone who's just heard it, but when I say directed energy weapons, I'm not saying it could be a laser. I'm just saying it could be
No,
technology.
I get you because I've been looking into getting one of those new Dyson hair dryers for my missus, and they're getting pretty good these days. So I can just it could be the Dyson could have it could be anything really, couldn't it?
Well, I hope it's not what I think could have been used that day, because you won't ever need a hairdryer again. No.
I mean, with the directed energy weapons theory, I'll just preach about that for a minute. A lot of people say
That's been used recently.
Yeah, a lot of people say Dr. Judy Woods, who's the woman that spoke about it from a scientific standpoint, is full of shit. I had
No,
one of
she's
her,
just intensely boring.
yeah, I had one of her friends on, Andrew Johnson, and we spoke about loads of stuff, Roswell and fucking just loads of information. Anyways, but she basically didn't theorize that it was a conspiracy. She just put her theory to paper on how it came down, basically, and all the discrepancies with it to do with like the rubble not amounting to the correct weight, steel beams that you can see like disintegrating into ash.
Cars that were burning that shouldn't have been burning.
Yeah, cars that were burnt in, like glass
Oh
was
yeah, there's that as
smashed,
well. Yeah.
cars scorched, but paper was fine. Firemen standing next to little pools of lava, but they didn't really look bothered. Like buildings that had like scorch marks on them, and a couple of windows smashed out. Whatever, like the theory's there. And Jesse Ventura met her and spoke with her about it, and he actually changed his theory from a controlled demolition, I believe, to similar to what Dr. Judy Wood's saying, because he went and met the person that was creating something called like the death ray or something,
Right.
which sounds a bit extreme, but he went and met him anyways and spoke with him, and yeah, like saw this technology or whatever. It's on Jesse Ventura's conspiracy theories, and that show's actually been taken off of like pretty much everywhere now. Like you won't really find it, and I think Jesse Ventura's been banned from like TV because he was going to like all these different places, interviewing people.
He's a bit
So,
outspoken, isn't he?
yeah, so I think they shut him up a bit. But because I'm open-minded enough, like I have that theory in my mind, I think that's definitely a plausible theory based on the information she's given. But in the other sense, obviously, it could just be all hogwash and bullshit. But I go with that theory because it's the one that sits with me quite well. And
Yeah.
I don't believe it's so far-fetched to believe that the government has technology that we know fuck all about. Because why would they give us the top technology when, like Apple have got the iPhone 15. They just want to drip
Apple and
feed
top
it.
technology doesn't exist, mate.
Not anymore,
Do-
no.
The Apple, the iPhone 15 is just the Huawei phone that's just came out.
Yeah.
The underage iPhone.
But yeah, so I think I heard about the directed energy weapons recently because of the fires.
Oh, in
Yeah.
California.
Yeah, someone was saying that was one of the theories about that even
Yeah.
that was what started the fires.
There's a lot of strange things about those fires. I'm not going to say it's directed energy weapons. I'm just saying I've seen photos of buildings that have been reduced to nothing and there's been no fire around them. They just there was a McDonald's on the highway that just disappeared, but yet the trees around it were still there. It's
Yeah,
really
I
odd.
saw quite a few photos that looked a little bit sus. And that's when I saw the directed energy weapons theory being flown about. I think I actually saw it on Eddie Bravo's Instagram. I think that's what I first saw it on.
Eddie, yes, he's on the levs.
Yeah, and then I think there was Sam
Look into
Tripoli
it.
as well talking about it as well.
Look into it, man. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is, like, obviously, because we're not massively, like, super intelligent in certain fields, like, we're not firemen, but we kind of understand the basic concept of fire. Like, if my house catches on fire, you're probably 100% sure that my back fence is going to catch on fire, and so is my grass, and so are the trees out the back of my house. They're going to catch fire, and it's going to spread until someone turns up and deals with that shit.
I can't. I just want to make you aware that if this footage is shown after you die in a house fire, that we had nothing to do with it. Okay.
Yeah.
He
Well,
only lives down the road from me.
it might start in my room, actually, with all this fucking lighting and everything, so you never know.
Well, it couldn't start because you know the basic concept of fire, so it wouldn't start, would it?
Let it burn. But yeah, you get what I'm saying. It's like when things look funny or off sort to you, you need someone more educated to obviously tell you about it. So what I'm saying is, like, with these theories and conspiracies, they're all what works for us and our brains and what we understand, until we hear it from someone who is well educated enough in a field to present the information that's going to change your mind. So, for example, when I had Mick West and Tony Zambotti on, Tony Zambotti is obviously an engineer. I believe he's an engineer.
Mechanical engineer.
Mechanical engineer. So he
Yeah, I
understands.
was about to say, yeah.
Yeah, he understands buildings and so on. And obviously Mick West, like, is a good debunker, but when it all boils down to it, like, what's his degree in? Do you know what I mean? What's he actually educated himself in? Like, what does he really, really know well? And that's not me
He's a
slagging
game
him off.
developer, wasn't
Yeah, that's not me
Tony
slagging
Hawk.
him off or hating on it, because I believe some of his points are very valid, and I believe he's well educated in what he wants to become educated in. But he's kind of fallen into, we fall into like the conspiracy rabbit hole, for example. Well, then he goes and falls into the debunking rabbit hole. Do you know what I mean? And who knows that some of that debunk isn't bullshit? Do you get what I mean? Like, you don't know,
Yeah,
do
that's
you?
a fair point. It's like it's tit for tat, really, isn't it? It's like it's the same thing, really. It's just two extremes, two sides of the same extreme, maybe. But I
Yeah.
think he would see himself in the middle. I think.
Probably. I mean, surprisingly, I like talking to him. Like, he's well alright. Apart from he didn't send me a fucking copy of his book, which he said he was going to do.
You're still banging on about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you are still suffering from insomnia. As soon as you get his book, you won't be suffering from
Yeah,
it.
you'd be
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah. But just to clarify, because I have had him on like a few times, I don't dislike the guy in any way. We have disagreements about certain views. He's debunked some of my views, and yeah, like, he's a good guy to talk to. So yeah, just wanted to chase that up. I don't want to be slagging off any.
Yeah,
of
so
my ex-guests.
in 12 months' time, when someone's like ringing me up for a statement on your house fire death, and I'm going to push the conspiracy theory that he sent you a copy of his book that when exposed to a direct energy weapon, blew up and started the fire. That's what I'm gonna. That's just letting you know. That's gonna be my.
I'd
That's
just
gonna be my
say
line.
when it was exposed to someone who could actually write a book, it's fine. But that will start a fire.
But yeah, I mean, conspiracies, obviously, like the 9/11 conspiracy, that's my theory on it that sits well with me. A lot of people who I've said, yeah, watch this theory, mate, they've gone, yeah, I think that's probably the closest to it, like, to truth that we can get at the moment, which there is a lot of fairy tale stuff involved, technology that we don't really know about. But then when you watch the video of the woman recording from her apartment and the smoke, like, gets to a certain point and then just rises up. Like a dome, surprisingly, you think, what the fuck's that about?
What was the first thing that made you think that there was something dodgy about it? Like, what both of you, like, what was the first thing that made you go, right, I need to look into this more?
It's unusual.
Well, I was like 14, 15, and so it was like 15 years ago. And I don't honestly remember how I got into it. I think I just got a decent internet connection and started going to places I ain't been before. Conspiracy websites.
I get you, yeah.
There was something called Web Theory. It was years old. I doubt it's even around now. And they had these little, they took footage and picked out sort of discrepancies and stuff. It was all just basic stuff, but that's what got me looking into it. And then ended up ordering a DVD called In Plain Sight. It was by a radio host in America, and for some reason, and it was all about the footage of the plane, and it had like a bulge underneath, like a pod that shouldn't have been there.
Okay.
And before it hits the tower, there's a flash. It was
right.
pretty...
So it's basically intimating that was maybe some sort of explosive device, or
And if you fast forward now, I don't even think there were planes. So
right.
I'm not going to get into it. I can't be asked.
So did you get that DVD from the same place I got my DVDs from?
The Chinese man.
Yeah.
Oh, the Chinese man. No, I got my DVD. Did you ask him
for the special section?
No, I got my DVD from. I think it was Amazon.
Was it?
When they started selling DVDs, yeah.
All right.
Back in the day. Yeah. Just to revert back as well to the flat earth stuff, because we kind of touched on the religious side of it. I think that people believe in that flat earth stuff because they want to believe in the religious stuff. Do you get what I mean? Because like apparently in Antarctica there's like the stairway to heaven or whatever and shit like that.
Led Zeppelin playing live, yeah.
Yeah, and it's because they want to believe that there was a purpose and that we are the center of the universe.
I think that's where the firmament thing comes from.
Yeah,
I think that's a religious justification for the flat Earth theory. That is the firmament thing. Because I've a few people that I spoke to that believe the flat Earth theory, they use that and they're quite religious. It seems to be quite a correlation between religion and this specific theory.
I mean, it's if you're gonna believe it, like that's fine, but don't be like all this like hating and slamming on and yeah, mate, you're an idiot because you don't believe flat Earth. It's like fuck you, mate. Like what? Because I don't.
Well, that's the internet though. It gives you that little I don't know, a little bit. People get brave, don't they?
Yeah, I mean,
it's quite a toxic community, the flat Earth community.
Yeah, Billy Carlson from Forbidden Knowledge actually got I interviewed him, and he got loads of hate because he's like a conspiracy theorist, and he was basically just like, people have actually approached me to pay me to believe in the flat Earth theory. Like people don't know that this was a psyop. Like this is a psyop invented by the CIA to basically cause friction in the conspiracy theories world. So you think about it, if we all believe 9/11 was a conspiracy, which a lot of people do, what way to split the community up is to chuck in some flat Earth shit and then suddenly say these 9/11 disbelievers suddenly then all go onto the flat Earth theory and then they're all kind of fighting about, is the Earth flat? No, it's round, blah blah blah. So it's like what's it called? Like, yeah, we'll show you this hand and we'll hide this hand, kind of thing.
Yeah, it's basic subterfuge, which it's like House of Cards, isn't it? It's like,
yeah,
I think I don't seem. I think the only similarity between all the different conspiracy theories is the type of person, and you could be a different. You can be there's like loads of different types of that person, because obviously there's conspiracy theories that I'll probably flatly just go, yeah, that's true.
moon
But I
landing.
wouldn't say that I'm mental. Whereas there are obviously a percentage of people that think conspiracies, certain conspiracies are true, that are mental. That has to be.
Yeah. What do you think about the moon landing stuff? Like both of you, just on that.
Just don't think it happened.
I think it happened, but I don't think that I know that certain things were doctored, but I don't think that that means that it didn't happen.
Ooh.
I just think there's evidence that things were doctored, but why were they doctored? And I can't go that far as to say that means that it didn't happen at all.
Except the instantaneous, like, no delay phone call that the president had with people on the moon.
There's all sorts of stuff. The footage itself.
What about the belt
I mean,
that's around the Earth, the Van Allen belt that scientists say we can't even fucking go through?
I mean, if that was true, then that means the Felix Baumgartner wouldn't have been able to jump off that.
Well, Neil deGrasse
thing for Red
Tyson
Bull.
said the guy, that Felix guy, weren't in space. That's Neil deGrasse Tyson. He had this massive ball, and he's like, Felix didn't go into space. Like, you cannot see the curve of the Earth from blah 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 miles high. Shit is flat. Like, he didn't go into space.
That's true. That's true. It wasn't far enough to see they will have used fisheye lenses or wide angle lenses, at least. But if you look at it from the point of view of are we able to go into space rather than like a flat Earth thing, I think that would prove it for me.
Yeah.
Him being able to go up that high, because to me that's space. Obviously,
to me
scientifically
too.
it's not, but to me, if you were up that high and you could look around, would you believe in space?
Yeah, definitely.
So,
but I'm not that high.
So, like, it depends. I suppose it depends. It depends how high you've been specifically. Like, I've only probably
what kind of high are we talking about?
40,000 feet. I think I've only ever been around 40,000 feet or something, but no, maybe not that. But because that'll maybe take you down a different rabbit hole. But I mean, there's guys on YouTube that use those glider things that they put on the backs, the big fans, and they can go up quite high. And I think that if you believe in flat Earth, you should go up in one of them at least first. Don't build a rocket yet. Go up in one of them first,
yeah, and
then see what you think, and then you can go and do the things. But
I mean,
someone did recently, didn't they? They landed on the moon.
No, China sent a drone to the back of the moon or whatever. Apparently, it's just a strange one for me, like, because of the era that it happened in. If it happened now, I'd actually probably believe it more because we've got all this fucking technology and that. I'd probably be like, fair enough. But, like, it's science again. Like, you've got scientists, like, credible scientists saying, like, we can't pass through the Van Allen radiation belt. And it's, again, like, who do you believe? Believe the guys that say you can, or do you believe the guys that say you can't? Like, it's what sits well with you. And
I just think split then, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and then you think the time that they did it in, 1960... 1969. Like, they didn't even
65.
Like, the stuff that took them to the moon is not even as powerful as fucking my phone. Do you know what I mean? Like, kind of that logic. It's like, if I said to you, bruv, like, last week I went to the moon in something that actually is shitter than your phone, you'd laugh at me. You'd be like, fuck off, mate, did ya? I'm like, yeah, mate, I went to the moon, right? Got in a rocket, went to the moon, but it's shitter than your phone.
Well, my question is, why hasn't anyone asked this Van Allen guy? So he clearly knows a lot more than we do.
Yeah. And the rocks they brought back as well from the moon.
He's coming on the podcast, isn't he, with Mick West?
What,
Yeah,
the
so-
entire circumference of the world? Get a big camera.
That's what it's like when I'm on here with my head, mate. That's the circumference of the world is just here on camera now.
Well, Virgin Atlantic or Virgin someone that they're going to start doing flights
Space
of it.
shuttle, yeah. See, that's the thing as well. Like, there must be. Like, I don't know. Yeah, and again, maybe they're not in space. They're high enough for the view of space. Do you know what I mean? But they're still in. They're working with Earth's forces. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So maybe they're not actually going past that belt that's meant to exist. I mean, Billy Carlson said to me that because he's part of some space station, that apparently there's holes in the radiation belt, and that's why you have specific times for launches, basically.
Oh,
So
okay.
they can fly up through the Van Allen belt because
Well,
there's
how
holes in the
high was?
radiation belt.
I mean, how high was Concorde? That's pretty high, was it not?
60,000, I think.
It just it gets into this whole thing of like, for me, I'm always like, am I going to really sit there and look into this? Because then I'm like, if I do and I find something that's a bit dodge, then I'll look into more stuff.
Yeah.
And it was like when we were talking about games before the podcast started, and I was like, I haven't played that game yet because that's more hours of my life gone. That's the same thing with conspiracy theories sometimes with me, where I'll be like, I can't dip my toe in there because once I've dipped my toe in, I'm
Full bore.
I'm chucking myself in.
I feel
Sean,
like that's a segue.
Sean, pull that up, man. Pull it up. Pull it up, Sean. Look into it, man.
Yeah, that was a segue, Sean. It was a segue to Brexit.
What's your
Brexit.
what's your theory, by the way? Just quickly, because you asked us our theory on 9/11. What's your theory? What do you believe?
Mine,
Yeah.
I believe that obviously it happened.
Well, yeah.
I believe that there's some things that can't be explained, but I don't believe that there was anything planned by the government or anything. I just believe I believe it happened the way it happened, and that there's certain things that we can't explain. Those things can be explained by random radical occurrences or knowing certain things and knowing certain contexts that we can't know now because it's been so long. I think that eases my mind a little bit, so I don't have to look into it any further.
9/11, the new Pearl Harbor, mate. Just watch that and watch the
I know
fucking...
I've got a list of stuff that I need to watch, but
We'll put that on
again,
your top of your
I
list.
get a little bit scared of watching them.
Nah,
Not because I don't want to turn into you, but just because I just I just think that I'll go down a hole, and then so I'll be that guy that you meet in the pub that won't stop talking about it.
Yeah. No, yeah, it's cool. Should we wrap this up? Because we've been on for an hour and 10. If you're both happy.
Yeah, before we all go, quick thing. Something about Dark Souls 3 I need to get out there.
Oh yeah.
I do recommend you get it, as Jay can say as well. I've put 350 hours into that game.
Me too.
Right.
You know, and that's just on PC because I bought it for PlayStation 4, bought it for Xbox, and God knows how many hours put into them. So,
just to let everyone know as well, if you type in JB Podcast on the discount code, you get 50% off. Dark Souls 3. I'm joking, by the way. I'm joking.
So there was a game that was coming out for, I think it was for PS4, that was like Dark Souls, but it was more Japanese.
Go on, Sean, you know about
A samurai guy with white hair.
Sekiro. Oh no,
Neo, that's it. That
Yeah.
looked sick.
Yeah, I played that. I had it, and I liked it, but I didn't keep playing it. I just stopped playing it.
I used to play Ninja Gaiden Black, like over and over again, just complete it, hardest difficult level, complete. And that's why I like hard games. So that's what drew me to Dark Souls, because obviously the difficulty level. Yeah. But I keep always going, oh no, I can't get it, just in case I lose weeks of my life to it.
Yeah, it's definitely a cross between Ninja Gaiden, Dark Souls, and Diablo. with the
Yes, right.
like the random loot and all that. So if those are your three things, then you'll be invested
Then I'll
in
be
that
into
game.
it. I might get it. Yeah, you might have
Definitely.
you might have actually convinced me something in this podcast.
To buy Neo.
Yeah.
I'm happy about that.
Yeah. No, it's
Although,
been... Go on.
just 1 second, just to kind of, dampen it a bit. I don't think Neo's on Xbox.
But this also means I can get a PS4.
That's true. That's true.
Your girl's a
Get
solicitor,
Bloodborne.
mate. She's got that solicitor
Yeah, I'm
money,
Bloodborne.
bro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your girl's got that solicitor money, you know?
Are you trying to say I'm a kept man?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Mate, milk it. Ride the wave, baby. Nah, but yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure. Obviously, it's been fun, entertaining conspiracy theories and all, weighing in with opinions and disproving some shit and just chatting random stuff. So yeah, it's been cool hosting you, man. We should try and do this more often because it's been a good laugh. And yeah, thanks for both coming on.
No worries.
We'll chat off
Thanks.
stream if you fancy it for a couple of minutes.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, sure.
Brilliant. Hasta luego.